Good afternoon. I'm Brian Kronewitter with Issues in Education. I'm here at the NSBA National Conference in San Diego. With me today is Sami from Corvallis School District in Oregon. Sami, thank you for joining us.
And I have with me Marnie Maraldo with the, I'll let you say it.
Issaquah School District.
Thank you, Issaquah School District.
And we have here Ms. Megan O'Halloran,
Yes.
a board member at Milwaukee Public School District. So thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So a little bit off-camera introduction. We were carrying a box of cookies, and you guys saw the cookies and were hungry for a snack, huh?
Yes, well, in the interest of full transparency, we thought they were donuts, but the cookies were an adequate second best, and they turned out to be perfect.
They hit the spot,
yeah, they were perfect.
With me today is Stephen Chapman. Good to see you, Stephen.
See you.
Good morning. He's of the Tolleson Unit High School District board member, also board of directors of NSBA. So tell me a little bit about some of the things that were important to you as a board member in Corvallis. And I understand that you did a $200 million bond issue that really enhanced your facilities. So let's talk first about the Board of Education, what you think was important from your perspective as a board member.
Yeah, as a board member, you're one elected member among 5 or 7 or 9, in my situation, out of 7. And the most important question I started, even my application process when it was appointments before I ran, is who's missing from the room? And frankly, a board member called it out. It's like, look around you, we're all white, and most of them were middle-aged or older, and they said, we need really more perspectives. And I realized as soon as I got on the board, guess what? There is more voices needs to be on the room because 7 cannot reflect the whole community. So one of the questions we asked ourselves, how can we engage with the community? For example, we have schools that had an average age of somewhere in the middle of the century, last century. So to upgrade those buildings and ask the voters for their trust that we want to build it, the first question was what the community wants, what the students and the parents want.
Wonderful.
And that has been really important, community engagement to inform the decision making, whether it's you're going for the voters and ask them to support a bond, or what kind of curriculum we need to do to make sure it's reflective of the community. And also, are we going to be able to sustain our operations given the ups and downs of state funding?
Yeah, that's very insightful. And let me talk a little bit about the bond issue. It's $200 million, I understand?
Yes, $200 million. And the beauty of it, we promised for what we thought we could deliver within $200 million. And of course, we had more things we needed to do. And as soon as we got the bond, we got really good rating as a district. So fiscal responsibility is so important. So we got premiums and interest and also matching funds. So we got a few tens of millions of dollars that help us do a little bit more on our bucket list.
Wow, that's wonderful to leverage, those potential items. And is the program completed now, or are you still in the process of doing it?
We're about to finish it. So we are a school district of 6,700 students, more or less, and we have 13 schools. We rebuilt 2 elementary schools from bottom up, and every school got something.
Nice.
We did seismic upgrades, flexibility in the classroom, and when they say light finishing, that means lots of work where the school looks completely different.
It's transformational, I'm assuming, And the public reaction, I assume, has been positive?
Very, very.
Good.
And I can tell you, going around the congressional district I'm in, one of the valuable things for the community is if you promise something, deliver on it. Always communicate. And we had a community-based conversation around how the design should look like. So the student, teachers, and parents were the ambassadors about how the school looks like. People are really happy, really excited. And there's so many different modalities of learning that we thought of and are being implemented, and many flexible applications that we did not even imagine the kids now and the teachers are deploying.
How does project-based learning interface with the traditional, we need to get test scores up for the state exam or for entrance to get into college? How does that play?
We actually have a completely different, the grading system is completely different. So the students actually go before a panel 3 times a year. And they have their exhibition where they talk about their learning, all of the projects they worked on, and it's all competency based.
Okay.
So it'll be about quantitative reasoning or communication. So there's a list, I think, of at least 20 or so different competencies that they have to learn and grow over time. And so all the people that are there at the exhibition actually provide them their grade of how they're doing between a 1 and a 4. Are you approaching that skill? Have you mastered that skill? So it's mastery-based learning, really, so around those competencies.
Well, I know for many districts, change is difficult. And to change over to a project-based system is challenging for many. What advice would you give them, those districts that are watching this video, how to move forward with a project-based learning program?
It's okay to start small. Our school is 200 students, so in a school district of 20,000, we have 3 comprehensive high schools, and then we have a choice school.
Okay.
And it really is building a collaborative team and being brave. I remember walking those halls thinking, we want this building to do something different. We were doing a bond. We were going to change the building. And we were thinking about how do we help students engage in a completely different way. And that was through the project-based learning. It's be brave, I would say, is your biggest thing. Be brave, and then hiring the right people to do the job.
So how have you been able to get the parents on board? Because the community engagement is an important piece.
For many, it's a lottery system, so they apply, and it's based on a lottery. And it's somebody who wants to take charge of their own learning, is what we'd say. So the best student is one that's ready to really take charge of their own learning. Definitely motivated students. We had one graduate that didn't go to college because he had to run his $1 million business.
Outstanding, isn't it?
Yes.
Outstanding. In some of the startup companies that I talk with, and there's so many startup companies out there, it's just amazing. It's a whole industry out there. They're looking for students just like the ones that you're talking about. They can come in, a student can come in right out of high school and do programming because they've been doing programming for 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years.
Correct. It's building those skills because this particular high school also has internship-based learning, so that students twice a week are going to an internship where they have a mentor in a job field that they're interested in pursuing. And it gives them the opportunity, one, to try. Is that something you want to do? So the parents aren't forking over money for college tuition and they're going, oh, I don't want to do that.
That's right.
So they get a chance to experiment. So they can either stay in the same internship their full 4 years, or like my daughter who went there, who had a different internship every year and learned that she loves art and she doesn't want it as a job. And I'm like, that's a good thing to learn at the end of the day.
Boy, it's a great thing to learn, isn't it? Too late.
Tell me a little bit about, you did a 60-mile walk. What was the cost? And I don't even drive that far, so.
Yeah, so I was elected in April of 2019, and it's kind of an overwhelming experience. Like, you raise your hand and you're sworn in, and then they hand you an 800-page budget. And at the end of May, when we voted on the budget, I just kind of threw it out there that I was going to walk to Madison to raise the issue in particular about special education funding, because Wisconsin has the distinction of being the lowest in the nation for reimbursement of special education services.
That is incredible, because you have to provide that special education,
yes,
whether you have the funding or not.
Yes, it's written into our state constitution that all students, all children in Wisconsin are entitled to a public education. And so it's currently, or it was at the time, 26%, and the goal of public education advocates was to get it up to 60%. I thought it would just be me walking. I wasn't sure if anybody would join me, but I reached out to some of our allies. The Wisconsin Public Education Network was kind of the backbone organizer, and we started it in Palmyra Eagle, which is 60 miles from Madison.
Hey, good number,
there you go, right? And then walked over the course of a couple days to Madison, just to uplift that issue, because it doesn't just impact special education students, because we are required, it's a mandated service, and even if it weren't mandated, I feel like we're ethically obligated to provide these services. So if we don't have the funding, then we pull it from general education funds. And so every year in Wisconsin, districts around the state transfer roughly $1 billion to cover special education services. And so I walked 60 miles, and we did get a slight increase, so it wasn't
So you moved it forward. You moved the issue forward.
Yes, we're just going to go with that. I carried the ball forward.
There we go.
Yes.
I'm very familiar with southern Wisconsin. So you went through some smaller towns and raised some awareness. Did you have good weather?
There was only one day where it was pouring, and we actually had to shelter in a car because there was a tornado warning.
So bad.
Yeah, but
and it took 3 days?
Yes,
Okay.
3 days. But we channeled that saying, rain or shine, we walk the line. So we
You
pushed
did it.
it forward.
You powered through it. Well,
Yeah.
Good job.
I understand some of the issues that you'd like to speak to today really are surrounding leadership and engagement from a board perspective. And I'd like to really maybe dive a little bit deeper into that and tell me a little bit about how that has come about from your perspective as a board member since the age of 22.
Yeah, it's been interesting, especially over the last couple of years. We've across the country, governing board members, just like any other elected official, have always wanted a little bit more engagement from their community, their constituents, and within the last year or so, that's exploded with engagement, getting to know who their school board members are, which is a great thing. Regardless of some of the political tensions here and there, it's good that people are paying attention, asking questions of their elected leaders, because with everything going on, I think there's one thing I want to state, that there's this narrative that school boards and parents are enemies, that they're at each other, and that's just not the case. Communities and board members, they're not at each other. School board members are parents, they're community members, they're the same people that are coming in and agreeing and disagreeing with what's going on. Right now we're just experiencing a high level of the elected parents and community members not always agreeing with their constituents. And that happens in government, that happens in politics with our elected leaders. So it's about having those civil discourses, about going to meetings and getting to know who those folks are. So, one thing I just want to, make sure that everyone knows is there isn't a us versus them, because we are them, we are us. It's, we're the same people. And that kind of gets to the importance of school board leadership, is we need dedicated folks in the community to step up to make sure that the students in that district are getting the services they need, the resources they need, partnering with organizations, and school board members can have a significant impact on that in the positive and in the negative when it comes to student success and everything else.
In essence, it sounds like a public relations program should be part of the process of being on the Board of Education. So you're getting that message out there where it needs to be. And obviously, I've got 3 kids who went through public education, and the stories you hear aren't always as easily out there for the constituency to really understand what's happening with the Board of Education, with their investment on their tax dollars, and so how do you do that from a board perspective? Is there a leadership point of the board where, hey, we're going to hire XYZ to do this PR, or do you just do it kind of vicariously with the folks on the Board of Education?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, and this is the importance of having our state associations, our national association, to come to conferences like this here in San Diego and learn about ways of interacting, communicating with our communities where they are. We have generations of folks that, they might prefer, mailers still, emails, maybe some text messages. And then we have the newer generation that's, social media, the Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all these things that are, building up. So it's about engaging. And we've seen over the years, all politicians have, started to rework the way that they do things. Right. And another piece with that is also still engaging with our media, because we've also seen over the last several years, there's been a rollback in some ways of communicating with media to help spread stories out and build that narrative. and just kind of owning it on their own. So yeah, a lot of districts do contract or hire a PR person, community relations person, but I think it's also incumbent on the school board members to get out there and tell the story of their district, tell the story of the work they're doing, because just like in any other job, I have to go up for an interview every 4 years, essentially with my community, and justify my job, So yeah, it's incumbent on everyone and having a shared story and vision about where the district's going.
Well, Steve, it's been great to have a chance to speak with you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I enjoyed talking to you, really did.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Bye.
Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us, and
Thank you,
I'm sure we'll
Alex.
continue this conversation later on. So
Yes.
I appreciate you. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
Thank you.
Sammy, anything else that you'd like to speak to as we wind this interview down?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, as board members, trust the experts, ask the questions, rely on data,
Absolutely.
and listen to the data as much as possible. Sometimes they're mandated by the states and they say you need to do this study, but how you use it and when you use it and how often you use it is so crucial for board members.
Awesome. But thanks a lot, Sammy. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.